Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I hope that you are having a wonderful entry into 2021. I'm coming on today to talk about one of our favorite topics, and that is Mercury retrograde. This is going to kind of be an old-fashioned video for me where I just dive into a very individually focused transit. I actually remember back in December of 2017 when I made my first individual transit video about Saturn in Capricorn, and that felt like such a departure because all I was doing was monthly readings. I'm like, oh my gosh, is anyone going to like these individual transit videos? And I did them for a long time. And more recently, I've gotten into more like collective themes and, more like grouped astrological transits. But today we are getting classic with things and diving into an individual transit. So yes, on January 30th, we are having Mercury going retrograde at 26 degrees of Aquarius, and it is going to be retrograde until February 20th of 2021. So not a super long time. Of course, we have Mercury in retrograde shadow, a week or two on either side of that. So we could really say that this energy is kind of in effect from you could say probably January 20th to like March 5th. Where it's felt, but most strongly it's in effect from January 30th until February 20th. So about a 21-day period of time where our lives are going to change to some degree, okay? And where we really start to get acclimated with a type of energy that we don't have a lot of context with. So I would say leading up to this transit, we're still kind of operating in that very contextual, traditional sense that we had in 2020 of having Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn. And of course, when December 20th of 2020 came around, we had Jupiter and Saturn starting to move into Aquarius. And ever since then, it's only been a bit more than a month at this point in time. We've had Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius, Jupiter moving pretty quick. And then we've had, the Sun now moving into Aquarius. And what we are preparing for is a ginormous Aquarius stellium, unlike anything we've seen. Coming on February 12th of 2021. In fact, that's what I'm going to be doing a live premiere on next Friday, February 5th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Pacific time, which is 8 p.m. Central time and 9 p.m. Eastern time. Time zones. I'm doing a live premiere about that stellium, and that's going to be probably one of the most important videos of the year. So I hope that you guys will be able to come to that live chat next week if you get the chance. Try to mark your calendars if you can. I'm going to have some festivities here on the YouTube channel. I might do even some live readings or something. So we'll have a great time and sort of usher in that energy, because that's when it's really going to click into place, this new Aquarian wave of energy. But we're already starting that now. As this Mercury retrograde starts on January 30th, we're going to start to kind of mentally click the changes that are coming into effect. And we're going to start to see the lack of context in which some of us are operating and how that might actually be really good. So I want to bring, regarding this Mercury retrograde, I want to bring one word into consciousness here. Let's think about the word unconventional, okay? Unconventional is the word that is definitely coming up, and also for this stellium underway. So what we need to really be careful about is actually getting too conventional or too traditional in our thinking. At this point in time, this particular Mercury retrograde is going to be very different than the others. I'll get into that in a second, but at this point in time, okay, I think that everybody can identify something maybe unconventional about themselves, or something about their goals, or something about their current progression that just does not really fall into the way that things have typically worked in society. So we do have maybe a bit of a rebellious streak coming into societal norms. That will definitely be something that I will anticipate, and maybe a bit of friction and conflict there with the Mercury retrograde especially. But even society aside, individually, I think that we might also be in conflict with our greater schemes. I think that we might be telling ourselves, this is not how it works. This is not how people traditionally have gotten from point A to point B, in whatever my goal is. And therefore I foresee conflict, or I foresee struggle, and this is what we're telling ourselves because this is not conventional. So we have to really widen and expand our thinking and understand that probably the only things empowered right now are those things which are unconventional. Okay, too much focus on tradition, too much focus on older concepts will not feel empowering right now. It will feel out of time, and it will feel contextual, yes, but it will feel like unenergized, disempowered to get too traditional in your thinking right now. So that is more in alignment of this general time of like the Aquarius stellium coming on. But I just wanted to kind of bring that up to everyone to consider unconventional means in ethical ways. So I think that the people who really thrive right now are people who can combine healthy unconventional methods with like a very highly evolved, integrity-based ethical approach as well. Really seems to be the only way to feel super empowered right now. Again, we have Jupiter and Saturn together, so for everybody there's a bit of a conflict between like, okay, where's my luck coming from? Where's my power coming from as a person? And then also what are the limits of that? What are the constraints of that? And what also do I pay or sacrifice in order to move forward? So that's a little brief introduction to the general energy. Let's focus even more into this Mercury retrograde, though, and we'll get more into all of that in next week's video about the the Aquarius stellium of 2021, one of the most important weeks of 2021 coming up next week. I hope you guys can come to that live premiere. Focusing in on this Mercury retrograde transit, okay? So to me, this actually feels to be one of the most beneficial Mercury retrogrades we've had in a while. So of course, if in your natal chart you have these degrees of Aquarius somewhere, this like 26 degrees of Aquarius, yes, it could be very typical Mercury retrograde energy where you might feel scattered, or you might feel overstimulated, or you might feel that things are not well put together or well organized. But I feel, as is in traditional Aquarian style, that this Mercury retrograde also will be an unconventional one. So we think conventionally about Mercury retrograde as a scattering, displacing, sort of wildly frenetic, chaotic energy. Though if Aquarius makes everything unconventional, does perhaps this Mercury retrograde indicate some amount of tranquility, some amount of soothing, calm, rational kindness, and just, I almost want to say calibration? It's interesting how Mercury works retrograde in Aquarius. Actually, for the last few years, we've had pretty wild Mercury retrogrades, lots of Mercury retrogrades in Scorpio over the last few years, which has been really like the most potent of Mercury retrograde, like, because Scorpio energy is about potency and the most concentrated, most flavorful aspect of anything. So those Mercury retrogrades in Scorpio, having so many of them back to back over the last few years, have made like really chaotic Mercury retrogrades. And I think that this one is actually not going to be so chaotic. I think it's going to be more soothing and capable of creating tranquility for us. But bearing in mind, it depends on your relationship with the unconventional. It depends on your relationship with unexpected events. Again, this is Mercury, and its higher octave sign of Uranus. It loves Aquarius. Mercury, one of Mercury's favorite signs is Aquarius. So as it's transited through most of Aquarius and gained most of the knowledge of Aquarius, it's not retrograding until the late degree of 26. It really seems to be happy, and it really doesn't mind spending a bit of extra time going back over what it's learned so far. So that's a lot of what I'm feeling for us too, is we might kind of be going back over what we've enjoyed and understanding it even more, spending even more time than we thought in study or in a job or in a process, just because we like it or just because we enjoy it. It's kind of something about spending a bit of extra time in this transit. I also think there is a level of beneficial chaos with this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. So don't get me wrong, it's not that Mercury retrograde in Uranus's sign is not chaotic. I think it is maybe like hyper chaos to some degree, but it's almost so chaotic that it just turns neutral, or it just nullifies the energy in a way too, depending on what, again, your relationship with chaos is, or your relationship with that which is or is not conventional is. So this is all about relationships, actually, and our relationship with certain dynamics. Okay, that's really, I think, what Mercury in Aquarius in general is about the mentality of dynamics, the recognition of dynamics, the ability to work with dynamics. So I think that the best thing we can do leading into this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius is really look at the dynamics of our life, looking at the dynamics of our routine, looking at the dynamics also of how we think about things. Do we have maybe a really worrisome component to our mental norm right now? What do I mean by this? Is there maybe a tendency to assume the worst case scenario right up front? The Aquarius stellium is going to deal a lot with this. It's going to deal a lot with our mental norms. It's going to deal a lot with our intelligence. It's going to deal a lot with what our automated reactions are to dynamics and things in general. This is a very subtle, nuanced situation that we're dealing with a lot of this Aquarius stellium. It's really not that physical, okay? Again, we get into Aquarius and Pisces, we're out of the human condition, we're less grounded, we're dealing much more with other dimensional planes, we're dealing much more with mental abstract concepts. So a huge stellium oncoming, okay, and this Mercury retrograde preceding that says to me that there might be a lot of aspects of our thoughts and lots of aspects of our situations that we have not really given a lot of consideration to. A lot of our concepts, personal, business related, relationship, philosophies regarding all of these things are up for a redo right now. And if we can't understand where we've gone right, where we've not gone right, and I'm talking abstractly when it comes to our own sort of unphysical dynamics in life. This is something I think that not many of us think about at all. Like when I see this situation arising in my life, say for example, okay, I've not quite made enough money to cover my bills this month. Let's just look at a non-physical dynamic like that. So you have this sort of like abstract idea of money and this abstract idea of cost of living. And then you realize, okay, I either have a surplus or I have a deficit or I have just enough. All non-physical dynamics. Based on what you're seeing there, you have this reaction. So when I have a surplus, when I have more than enough abstractly, I feel good, right? That's a dopamine rush. I have more than enough to get by. When I run a deficit, all of a sudden I feel nervous, I feel anxious, I feel like I've made a mistake or I've somehow been, perhaps treated unfairly, or there's been a confusion or something's gone wrong, We have an opportunity with this Mercury retrograde to kind of rewire our reaction dynamics in this way to where we can really manifest however we like. So we have the deficit, but we keep positive maybe, and we keep ourselves in sort of a peace-oriented beginning phase with this so that we don't continue that energy. We have basically the ability to really understand manifestation right now and to understand that, okay, yes, maybe something's gone wrong. Maybe there's a deficit in my energy or in my time or my money or my relationships or whatever. But how am I going to fix a deficit by getting into an obsession with deficits or into an obsession with how I've gotten there? It is one thing to understand truly how we got somewhere and to note that and to learn from that. But we oftentimes don't spend a lot of time there. Instead, we spend a lot of time angry about it or, discouraged or, despondent even over things that are non-physical dynamics. So that's a lot of what we have to look into is how can we not be despondent over one, that which we don't have control over, but two, over what we just never had to be upset over in the first place. So again, that's very hypothetical, and certainly there are situations where I suppose a budgetary deficit is not just a non-physical dynamic, It's, again, this is hypothetical about how we get worried or how we create stress in our lives. Because something else that this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius is going to deal with is stress, okay? Aquarius is one of the signs of stress. All the fixed signs are to a degree, but especially Aquarius, because again, Uranus, it rules the brain, it rules the nervous system, it rules the stimulation of the body through the senses. So that's how stress is induced, is through those things, So this Mercury going retrograde could introduce something stressful into people's lives as a bit of a test. Yes, technology issues. Keep in mind the security, I guess, of your devices, the security of technology. Also, I feel like it's a super easy time to have like hacking or some kind of, data breach or something with this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. So it's good to be prepared. And like I've been saying for the last year, any type of identity insurance is really good. I do feel that people's identities are not super safe right now due to the huge move into an online-based life. So the internet online experiences play a big role in this retrograde and in this oncoming stellium, because it seems to now be a center point of everybody's lives, which is not, I'm not going to express an opinion on whether that's good or bad, because it's not good or bad, but it's something that we don't have a huge precedent or reference point for. This whole like AI automated situation, which is Aquarius is the ruling sign of AI, artificial intelligence, technology, industry, things which humans have created but are not human. Again, outside of the human condition. So that's a lot of what this Mercury retrograde deals with also. And honestly, bluntly, I think a lot of us might just kind of move through this time and not really get much from it, but there is a lot here to get just in your tactics of mental dynamicking, I'm going to call it, just on your tactics of navigating logistical and mental dynamics. You can learn a lot, and you can move forward over these next few years with a huge leg up through understanding the dynamics of your life and the control that you have over those. And of course, some of the super typical and I guess, should I say, conventional thoughts on Mercury retrograde are just, try to not take on more than you can handle. Watch out for how much you put on your plate during the time of the retrograde from January 30th to February 20th. Typically, we don't advise huge purchases or acquisitions of new equipment or technology or anything like that is usually not advisable during a Mercury retrograde, though I feel like that is very not a huge deal with this one, actually, because like I said, this particular retrograde of Mercury in Aquarius is an unconventional Mercury retrograde. So perhaps some people really, like I said, will have a soothing time where they might actually acquire things that work really well and are very, formidable in their own way. So buying things is not totally unadvisable, but I wouldn't do it still. Like maybe that makes me too traditional of an astrologer, but like we typically avoid any huge new undertaking during a Mercury retrograde. But if it's been pre-planned and sometimes, we're meant to do things at the wrong time too, like sometimes, and that does really work out well in the long run for some people, even if it's a chaotic time of acquiring or a chaotic time of, just moving through life, that will spur and inspire the new path, which is better than it would have been if you did that wrong thing at the right time. Do you get what I mean? So basically you can't really mess up right now. Also, momentums are really set at this point after we went through all that Capricorn energy. So there's not really that much that we need to change or shift or get worried about at this point in time, because like things have happened and things are kind of now placed, and what we now have to work on, I think, are dynamics and making really optimized systems as well. So as business owners, making really optimized, I guess, like revenue plans, or in relationships, making really optimized plans for your relationship dynamics. Almost kind of automating them. So like I said, it's going to be very soon like year of the ox too. So many people can really like automate their jobs or automate their incomes, or like to a degree like automate their relationships too. And I can't say that this is a good or a bad thing. It just seems to be the momentum. And what that gives you is like more time to ground yourself. Okay. So this is what I will conclude the video on. It is really possible that our heads will be absolutely in the clouds, okay, over the next month or so, like all the way through Aquarius season until we get into March. And let me say, Pisces season, I can't even put words to it yet. I'm going to have to make like maybe a video just about Pisces season in and of itself, because it's really, out of this world. And I actually don't understand at this point, like even coming to you when I'm filming this video, which is January 26th of 2021, I actually don't understand how we get from where we are now to where Pisces season puts us, because I can already kind of see what's going down in Pisces season. And so far it looks really good. It looks really tranquil, surprisingly. But I'm not really understanding how we get to that point from here. So this stellium, which I'll probably understand a little bit about that in next week's video about the Aquarius stellium in general. It's going to be that ship, that sort of Six of Swords transitional point that puts us, into that Piscean energy. My point is, though, is that many of us have our heads in the clouds right now. We're so electric, we're so frenetic, we're so squirrely, scattered even right now. And the true test is grounding. Okay, so being grounded, grounding, that's something that gets a lot of talk, isn't it, in the spiritual community. I'm not so much talking about that type of grounding, but I mean it works. What I'm really talking about is like perhaps maybe the relationship with your body, or the relationship with your embodiment, and also your relationship with real things, okay? That I know got so focused in 2020, but a lot of us wouldn't even let ourselves heal those wounds either, just because of, I guess, like traditional societal norms, which also got so focused. The best thing I think that a lot of people can do is go on a hike, okay? The best thing that I think a lot of people can do is be in nature and disconnect a little bit from the automated world, though nobody can completely. So the grid, I guess, what we consider to be the grid, expands during this time and encompasses more. So I think that all of us maybe have some devotion and enjoyment of that. Look at YouTube. We're on YouTube right now. We're enjoying part of that, aren't we? Though, and nothing's for free at the end of the day, is it either? So through this enjoyment, we pay a certain price, I suppose, as well. But that's just the nature of life. And I wouldn't advise people to get too freaked out about that either. Because that's you walk on the hiking trail and you leave an imprint, a footprint, don't you? So there's no such thing as being a ghost in this world. And I think some of us are a little bit obsessed with that type of idea. Like, how can I get by under the radar, off the grid? Off the grid, that's really funny. That doesn't exist, okay? I'm going to get really blunt with everybody here, is that there is no such thing as off the grid. There actually is. There is such thing as it, but I think that some people associate off the grid with being out of the societal constructs, and I suppose that's semi-possible. If I suppose you maybe have a farm off somewhere in an undesignated territory and build your own houses and farm your own food and make your own clothes and stuff. But even if you created a community like that, that would be a new type of grid, So I don't think that anybody's off the grid. And like I said, even as you walk through the mountain trail, you leave a footprint. So you've left an impression into the material collective consciousness. So I want everyone to stop getting so obsessed with this idea of off the grid, because it does not exist while you are a living, breathing human. We are a collective species. We are not a solitary species. We are individual. We have this weird balance between individualism and more tribal collective ideas and concepts. That's a wavering scale that moves with the times and the eras. Though we are, I'm sorry to say it, we are a herd type of genetic species. So humans that are completely desolate or completely isolated or completely solitary are have malfunctioned in some way, because it's not possible. We have to reproduce, and we have to also build and grow through unity as well. Without that, this is a zombified type of terrifying experience. So I would definitely understand why there might be an aversion to connecting with other people, why there might be an aversion to other people in general, and then also why there might be a need to impede on other people. Any extreme of I'm against or I'm for, any extreme of I've got to be totally alone or I can never be alone. These things require moderation right now. And the people who can really be proud of their grid and be proud of what they're creating. Another note on like off the grid or anything like that. It's not great because it inspires sloppiness in your energetic output. So like I'm not seen, nobody sees me, nobody knows what I do. So I will just kind of live in the fetal position, you know. I would look at depression, and I would look at mental clarity, and I would look at the energy that you have day to day and why it might be so important. If there's an obsession with being disconnected or detached or off the grid, okay, so this is the shadow side of the Aquarian energy. If there's an obsession with being disconnected, detached, or off the grid, I would look at past experiences of like embarrassment or humiliation as it relates to how you move forward into your current experiences. And I would then look at like personal empowerment as well, and understanding that how one can live with others and create a type of lifeline for themselves, where on one hand they are not beholden or beneath others, but on the other hand they feel empowered enough and strong enough to assert who they are and have their free notions, while also being involved in humanity. Okay. I'm feeling a strong distinction coming about that. So again, that might be in line with what we want to talk about next week. But this Mercury retrograde is getting our mind there. It's getting our conscious idea into all of this Aquarian, very bright, sunny stuff. So the sun is very strong right now too. I watch out for things that are too bright or things that you have to squint to take in. Like, try to moderate as much as you can the concentration or the any type of extreme in your life right now. Extremes are blinding to some degree right now. So just keep that in mind. There's no reason to injure your senses in some way. So therefore, I think it's important to keep a calm, tranquil groundedness about you while you go through these new things. Okay, one more thing about just Mercury retrograde in Aquarius is have fun with it, okay? Have fun getting to know this new you. Have fun perhaps making new friends. It's an interesting time to make a new friend, actually. It's an interesting time to date for those of you who are single. It's an interesting time to gain new intelligence, to take new courses, to take new tutorials, to do something you've never done before, for fun. For fun, okay? Not for that job or for that contract or for that, 10th house thing that we've been so focused on over the last year. But what a beautiful time to travel for some, depending on where you're at, depending on, what's going on in your area. But what a great time, what a great magic traveling signature this could be, or experience of new terrain, new territory, new geographical things, looking at maps, looking at other places, looking at more diverse considerations is very auspicious right now. Really trying to take things up a notch, really trying to get more macro in thinking. And again, nothing wrong with individualism, nothing wrong with the micro, but we've had a lot of time there, and the recent transits are not very indicative of super micro things. This is like, again, we're getting outside of that grounded human place. So I say offset it, offset it with grounding exercises, with, really thinking of you and really thinking of your embodiment and that individualism to offset it, but rising at many times also of this month, at least, to a larger understanding of what's going on here that is not so, what do I want to say? Not so personal, but more like realistic, okay? Really offsetting the personal with the realistic, and understanding also what gets us more or less based on those ideas too, is there maybe a technique or a method or a dynamic that is ethical and also integrity-based that we can embrace, that makes our life a lot easier, okay? Again, it feels that we can really benefit from other people too. So collectives, as business owners, hiring is well indicated. As somebody who's a freelancer or someone who has a service to offer, it's very well indicated to offer that. As somebody who wants new friends, it's very well indicated to branch out and meet new people. This can be anywhere from business to relationships to friendships to family. We can actually create much healthier groups right now, or we can create really juxtaposed groupings. Like within our families, for example, we can be like really against our extended families or like really together. And what will we choose? You know, this is okay. So the messages just keep coming and coming. A lot of rage can come out right now too, as almost a type of neutral thing. You know, it doesn't seem like it's extreme. It doesn't seem like it's like unwarranted, but I feel like people can lose control of their words right now. People can really lose control easily and say very regrettable things right now that don't ever really go away. Okay, so we are really also setting a standard, I think, for our dynamics, as I was saying. And a lot of our dynamics are set through our communication. That's just something to keep in mind too. Like, how are we communicating? What dynamic are we really creating between ourselves and others? And is that something that really sustains us or gives us something in the future? Is this life dynamic in this moment something sustainable? Reaching towards sustainability is probably the most important thing in this oncoming year. You know, how can we sustain livelihood? How can we sustain what we have in a positive, ethical, and integrity-based way? All of this stuff is coming up. So keep it in mind. Very interesting thoughts and concepts coming in. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It went a little bit longer than I expected, actually. We just hit 30 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and conclude there. I hope that it was organized enough for you. I kind of just randomly did a stream of consciousness today. It was not outlined or anything, so let me know in the comments below if hopefully it was not too disorganized. But sometimes we really enjoy just this kind of conversational stream of consciousness too. So let me know what you like. Let me know what videos you'd like to see in the comments below, and be sure to thumbs up this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I would really appreciate it. Also, I have a Patreon page as well. All of the February general readings are going up to it right now, so you can click over to that in the description box. I'll also link it in the center of the screen to get a membership, and it's a great way to support the channel and get a lot of bonus content. I'm going to just say right now, everyone, that the Patreon page is so good, and I've put so much effort into it. It's like it's a labor of love, let me tell you. I do weekly forecasts over there every Saturday that are only available over there. I do all the 12 monthlies early and ad-free over there, so you don't have to watch the ads. You get all the extended readings as well. I also do a benevolence stream if you want to get the higher tier. There's all kinds of options. You can actually pledge whatever you like on Patreon. The lowest tier is $5 a month, which I think is really affordable and really, great, considering that many alternatives to this type of thing are like much more expensive, but I try to keep it low so that everybody has the option to do that if they like. But then, of course, yes, if you would like more, or if you would like to show higher support, you can actually pledge anything. So thank you so much, everyone. Check out the Patreon page, like this video, subscribe. Again, not everyone can do Patreon, which I totally understand. In which case, just your subscription, which is totally free here on YouTube, is so valuable. And if you have the chance to like and comment on videos, that's a free way to help support the channel too. Thank you so much, everyone. And next week, we are diving into the Aquarius stellium, hugest stellium, one-sign stellium I think I've ever seen, which is coming on February 12th. So be sure to check back at 6 p.m. PST next Friday. And we will talk about the Aquarius stellium. So have a great week, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Much love. Bye.